In the next edition of It's About Money, my guest will be the owner of Sharon Quataert Realty. She's been in the business for a while, and we'll be hearing about how she started her business as well as the current trends in the real estate market. Join us for the next edition of It's About Money. Welcome to this edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon, and thank you for joining us. I'm thrilled today that my guest is Sharon Quataert. She owns the Sharon Quataert Realty Group, and we're very excited to have her talk about how her business grew and also what the current markets are doing in Rochester, New York. Sharon, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you. So I'm interested in knowing how you started your business. Tell us more about your making the decision to open your own group and your background in the business.
Sure. So it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try to make it short. So I'm a 36-year real estate veteran. I started when I was 21 years old. I had the good fortune of landing on a real estate broker who was a teacher by education and mentored me from the beginning. I have worked in just about every business model in our local real estate world, and including owning a big franchise and operating hundreds of realtors, and quickly came to the realization that relationship building in front of buyers and sellers is really where my heart was. So back in 2014, my team and I, who had obviously had a lot of years behind us, decided that we were going to focus on just that. So that's where Sharon Quataert Realty was born.
Very nice. Congratulations. How did you go about building your own client base? Because that's one of the challenges, right? How do you build a client base? And it's a transactional business, but how do you nurture and build your clients?
Sure. So, back in the days before computers, it was a list of all the people that we knew, had done business with, family, friends, acquaintances, and getting involved in the community and different activities, just meeting people, being in a social environment, because this is a social business. So we have then developed over the years, of course, a database of over 5,000 people that we now, thanks to automation, keep in touch with on a regular basis. So hopefully when you think about real estate, you think about us.
So in terms of building the client base, how did you do that? Is it one client at a time, or did you buy lists to do that?
No, I mean, we have a recent bought list, but in the past, it really was one acquaintance meeting client at a time, and just build on that and build a reputation that repeat and referral business kept coming.
I see. And how many people are in your team right now?
So there's 10 of us all together, including our administrative support.
I see. And everyone's licensed to sell real estate plus the administrative support. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, are you the business where people begin to work as a realtor, or do you only take in people who are seasoned in the business?
We actually do both. I mean, certainly seasoned is where we prefer, but we have some newer agents that we are bringing up in the business that are starting out as showing assistance to our very successful buyer's agents.
I see. Now, is the model different from different groups to another, or is it pretty much the same? What makes Sharon Quataert Realty different?
So yeah, there are very different business models within our community. And here at Sharon Quataert Realty, we run it as a team, like we call it a mega team. So the 10 of us do as much business sometimes as a small brokerage.
So help me define that, because most of our viewers are not understanding or want a little bit help. So,
sure.
So a team. So I'm a customer, a client. I call your office. I want to buy property, and how does the team approach me? I mean, do I work with different people at every level, or how does that work? How does teamwork come to play?
Sure. So essentially, we have a back-end support, so administrative support that takes care of all of the paperwork. That's what affords us to do the volume that we do. We have a marketing director that helps with all of that relative to the sellers. And so when we list a house, part of the team, which is my son and I, work on the listing or seller side of the business, And then we have buyers agents that work with the buyers. So they're out there running around showing the houses. So they're really two very different sides of the business. The listing side of the business is more about marketing, attracting the widest audience to get the most amount of money for a seller, any particular seller's house. And on the buy side of the business, it's more about getting out there and finding, and of course, in this climate that we're in now, negotiating successfully to actually buy the house.
I see. So, because traditionally realtors have the selling side and the listing side, but in your team, you kind of broke it down to have some people specializing in the listing side and then some people on the buying side. Forgive me for asking, I just trying to.
No, that's okay. You can do both. And of course, certainly there are many realtors that try to do both. We've found that honing our skills on one side of business or the other really helps support the client in a better way.
Oh, so I'm the client, I come in, what is the typical, so there's a lot of first time home buyers, right? So I'm trying to, so if they're new and they're watching our show, help me, walk me through the process that someone would go through in terms of buying a house. What's the first thing that they need to do?
First step is we start with a buyer consultation. So we'll sit down and explain the process and kind of talk through what their expectations should be on both sides. And then the next step is they get pre-approved for a mortgage if in fact financing has to be part of their purchase, which is the most common. And because you can't even begin looking at houses without a pre-approval because it's impossible to successfully negotiate in this very competitive market in particular without that pre-approval. So that's really, so then you start the shopping process, and then with that comes advice on negotiating, how to set yourself up for success. And then we continue to hold your hand through the process during if there's an inspection, the inspection period, the buyer or the attorney approval period, and then to get you all the way to closing.
I see. So what type of expectations may a client have or buyer have? So would the buyer state that their expectation is they would look through the houses and the realtor would respond a certain time? Help me think about what the possibilities are of expectation. Is it an expectation of response, an expectation of zeroing in on what they want? Help me define what some of those expectations might be.
So it's all that you described and more, actually. So again, I keep referring to this very competitive market. I'm sure everyone has seen and heard in the news that it is very, very competitive. There are at least 20 to sometimes 50 buyers per house that hits the market. So right now, the expectation for every buyer should be that your representative, your buyer's agent, is on top of the market, understands how to set you up to win successfully when you're in competition. And there's all kinds of things that come along with that, from the amount of the deposit to, framing your offer to, we've had buyers offer to give the seller free rent backs or pizza at closing. The craziest things that happened. Most recent, the funniest one so far we've had is a buyer actually offered one of our sellers a free cruise if they would accept their offer.
Wow.
That's how crazy the market's getting.
For the seller? Did the seller go for it? The free
No, there were other terms of another offer that were actually a little bit better for them. But
that's amazing. That's pretty creative, right?
It is.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you're absolutely right. For my clients, it's like, let's set it up so that you can make a cash offer and we look at financing in some way. It's just absolutely right. Very competitive. And it seems to me that's slowing down a little bit with higher interest rates, right? Do you find that? You've been in the business for a while. When interest rates go up, does the interest of the buyers generally wane, or this helped me, I look back at December 2019 and how when mortgage rates went up to 5%, how the industry really saw a big decline in activity. Do you expect that coming up in terms of how interest rates are expected to go up?
Yeah, so back in December when that happened in 19, part of it was the seasonality of the market. Because in real estate, we do see that there are different times of the year that are busier than others. But what I have seen over the years is when interest rates begin to inch up, buyers actually scramble to take advantage of them before they go up even higher. So we are experiencing, and it's also springtime, or so the calendar says. We're waiting for Mother Nature to cooperate with that. But this is the time of year that more buyers are out there. So we're finding that it's still very, very busy. And I think that most buyers are going to try to make sure that they're taking advantage of it, regardless of it increasing before it goes any higher.
Got it. All right. Tell me how the pandemic influenced the real estate market, particularly in Rochester. What did you find change?
So we found we were already starting to experience the adoption of, more virtual things, and that just escalated it to, as in every industry, right? But we found that people are now more accepting of virtual tours. Sometimes we'll FaceTime through a house where they don't necessarily feel like they have to be in it. We also have more people are open to electronic signatures. We negotiate over the phone. We don't have to sit at your kitchen table necessarily. So those things, in addition to it changed some buyers' habits. So buyers then, their needs turn to, I need a space to work from home. I need a quiet space for the kids to do their homework. I want to stay home, so more recreational things in their backyard. In-ground pools, this is such an interesting thing a lot of people don't realize. In-ground pools have increased the values of homes so much because there's a 3-year waiting period to get an in-ground pool. And a lot of families are trying to do more recreational things at home. So we're finding that houses with in-ground pools are selling sometimes as much as $100,000 over list price just to get a pool.
Wow, because that didn't used to be the case, right? So that's
did not used to be the case. Sometimes it was more difficult to sell a house with a pool.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for that tidbit of information. What are your expectations with the activity in real estate now that we're expecting interest rates to go up further, right? I had heard, so we're talking in the spring of 2022, and that interest rates had climbed up from record lows to about 4%. What is your expectation as interest rates go up? Do you see that trend of real estate demand to continue as it is?
So certainly it will knock some people out of affordability, but in general, there is going to be such a lack of supply and such a high demand for a number of reasons that I still think we're going to see real estate being as crazy as it has been.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you. It's just the population growth has been very mild in the United States, but yet the home construction has not kept up. So that's kind of an amazing situation, but we'll see what happens, right? So it's a very interesting field that you're in. So how do you keep up with the constant changes?
So, we're always trying to stay in the know, with being involved in the community, being involved in industry, seminars and publications. And, we're always trying to stay on top of the news because it is an ever changing, like all industries, but real estate in particular has been the talk of the world of the last several years.
Yeah, and especially these days, like you said, that pool, it's always been for decades that the pools is more of a attraction. So, yeah, that's great. Are you expecting any wild changes coming up, or do you think that things are going to be about the same as has been in the last few months?
I expect them to be the same, and as with most economists that I've been reading, I think everybody is still expecting that we're going to see this very competitive seller's market. Sellers are still seeing multiple offers. And, in different seasons, sometimes we'll see 20 or 30 offers, and then sometimes we see 5 or 10, but there's still multiple offers on just about every single house as long as it's priced right and reasonable condition. And the buyer population is just out there like in droves.
Nice. Okay, that's great. Sounds like a healthy situation. Sharon, we've run out of time. I want to thank you for being a guest at my show. It's About Money. Our viewers, it's Sharon Quataert, Realty, and thank you again, and all the best to you and your team.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.